I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down.
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं कि
אני, בנימין נתניהו, בן צילה ובן ציון, זיכרונם לברכה, מתחייב כראש הממשלה לשמור אמונים למדינת ישראל.
Клянусь при осуществлении полномочий президента Российской Федерации уважать и охранять права и свободы человека.
What if the world witnessed one of the most electrifying and controversial alliances, an alliance that could reshape the entire geopolitical landscape? Imagine this: Trump, Modi, Netanyahu, and Putin, four giants in their own right, each with a shared vision that could spark a new era in global politics. But here's the twist. What if Elon Musk fits into this grand strategy? Get ready, because this ride through what could be the most powerful alliance of the 21st century is about to get wild. First, let's break down what these leaders represent. Trump, Modi, Netanyahu, and Putin are all nationalists at heart, driven by the desire to put their countries first, securing borders, rebuilding military strength, and pushing back against globalist ideals. Their shared focus is about stability, strength, and protecting their nations from internal and external threats. Let's talk about the so-called anti-heroes. The world often paints them as aggressive, but their decisiveness is exactly what makes them effective in dealing with complex global issues. They're not villains. They're leaders who put their nation's survival above all else. Take Putin, who's often criticized for his foreign policy. It's easy to label him as ruthless, but let's think about Russia's unique position, surrounded by both NATO and emerging power blocs. Russia's strategy isn't about aggression, it's about security and survival. Putin's efforts are simply a calculated attempt to shield Russia from Western interference, which, as we know from history, isn't exactly subtle. Then there's Netanyahu, who's accused of prolonging conflicts. But consider Israel's constant threat from radical elements. Israel's right to defend itself, to create a safe homeland for its people, is non-negotiable. Netanyahu's role isn't just about keeping the peace in Israel. It's about maintaining stability across the Middle East by countering the same forces that are destabilizing other regions, including Europe. Now, let's turn to the US. With its deep divisions and national security threats, especially from radical Islamic groups, Trump's victory wasn't just about politics. It was a response to America feeling left behind. His focus on securing borders and confronting extremism wasn't about fear. It was about protecting the American way of life. The right wing's rise isn't about rejecting progress. It's about survival and security. Modi, too, often criticized for his tough stance on extremism within India. It's easy to label him as authoritarian, but let's consider India's unique position, constantly facing internal threats from radical elements and external pressures in a region rife with instability. Modi's approach isn't about silencing opposition. It's about securing India's future and protecting its people from the growing tide of extremism. His hardline policies are a calculated attempt to restore order and safeguard India's sovereignty in a world where threats are becoming increasingly unpredictable. Much like Trump's America and Putin's Russia, Modi's leadership isn't just about managing India. It's about ensuring that the country remains a stable force in South Asia, ready to confront the forces destabilizing the region and beyond. So, what do they all share? A vision for a world where nations put their people first, charting their own paths to stability. This alliance could be the populist force that reshapes global politics. Never forget the disruptors: radical Islam and the deep state. Radical Islam is a global destabilizer, with groups undermining nations everywhere, from Asia to Africa to Europe. Who will step up to this challenge? That's where our power quartet comes in, ready to dismantle the corrupt structures that allow radical influences to thrive. See what's happening in Europe? For decades, Europe has embraced progressive ideals and has been a key proponent of globalism. Europe's role in the global order is increasingly in jeopardy. A potential alliance between Trump, Modi, Netanyahu, and Putin could leave Europe on the sidelines as the EU's progressive policies clash with the nationalist, security-focused visions of these leaders. Over the past decades, Europe has seen a growing influx of both legal and illegal Islamic immigration, which has sparked significant social and political tensions. High-profile incidents like the 2015 Paris attacks and the 2017 Manchester Arena bombing have exposed the dangers of unchecked migration and rising extremism. Calls for Sharia law in countries like France and the UK only heighten fears of cultural and political upheaval. As nationalism rises and globalist ideals wane, Europe risks becoming increasingly isolated, possibly shifting alliances toward China. This makes an alliance between Trump, Modi, Netanyahu, and Putin a more viable path forward, as their shared commitment to national sovereignty, security, and stability offers a better framework for addressing the growing challenges facing the world today. Imagine this: a world where these leaders coordinate intelligence networks and share their formidable military capabilities. Terrorist groups and radical factions would find themselves isolated, their resources cut off, their operations made exponentially harder to coordinate. Such a coalition could effectively neutralize these threats on a global scale. And that's not all. They wouldn't be working alone. Enter Elon Musk, the business maverick who's all in on Trump. Musk has a vision to propel American industry and defense, and he's looking at ways to bring his technological prowess into this alliance. SpaceX satellites, for instance, could provide secure communications across this coalition, enhancing intelligence and coordination. With Musk's innovation, these leaders wouldn't just be defending their borders, they'd be advancing into the space frontier with the capability to monitor and protect their shared interests from above. This isn't a Cold War. This is a high-tech alliance prepared to tackle modern threats with cutting-edge technology. Let's consider the military implications here too. With Modi's focus on defense, Netanyahu's advanced military, Putin's vast energy and military clout, and Trump's commitment to rebuilding American strength, this alliance could become a defensive powerhouse. Imagine a joint defense pact where these nations share cybersecurity, military intelligence, and even physical defense systems. Radical threats and rogue states would be up against a coalition that combines the world's most advanced technologies, resources, and strategic military assets. And for China? This would create an economic and military wall that would make it increasingly difficult to expand without direct resistance. What about Europe? As nationalism rises and globalism wanes, Europe risks being left behind, especially with growing tensions over immigration and rising extremism. This alliance could sideline Europe's progressive policies and present a new path forward, offering a framework of stability and security that's increasingly needed in today's world. But there's a shadow looming over this potential alliance: China. For years, China has expanded its influence, particularly in Africa, South Asia, and Latin America, leveraging trade and infrastructure investments to bring countries into its fold. But a coalition between Trump, Modi, Netanyahu, and Putin could fundamentally shift that balance. Trump has already vocalized his desire to reduce U.S. dependence on Chinese manufacturing, and Modi, with his Make in India campaign, is determined to bolster domestic production, potentially pivoting India away from Chinese trade. Netanyahu's Israel could limit tech collaborations with China, and Putin, with Russia's rich energy resources, might strengthen trade alliances that exclude Beijing. Together, these leaders could create an economic bloc that not only rivals China, but actively curbs its expansion by offering an alternative path to countries weary of China's debt diplomacy. Modi's economic policies, Netanyahu's tech-savvy market approach, Putin's energy reserves, and Trump's pro-business outlook would create an alliance based on growth. And let's not forget Musk's role. His tech could supercharge this alliance, making it not just a defensive powerhouse, but an economic juggernaut as well. Tesla factories in India, SpaceX satellites above Israel, and tech collaborations with Russia could drive this coalition forward, independent from globalist institutions that have been taken over by radical elements. So what are we looking at here? a new power structure, a world where these leaders, backed by Musk's innovation, create a coalition that stands firm against radical threats and the deep state. A coalition built on sovereignty, security, and stability. A vision for a new world order. If this happens, this wouldn't just be a military alliance, but a force that could stabilize regions, offer alternative trade routes, and push back against the forces that threaten global peace. Can this be a dawn of a new world order if it happens? Share your thoughts below and stay tuned for the next episode.